I think there's a unique update as of right now when it comes to Zebec, and more specifically, it's Zebec cards. And let me show you what I'm talking about, because not too long ago, Zebec, they made a post, or should I say Zebec cards, and it said that Kendo Inu is now live on Zebec Silver and Carbon cards. Now, why do I think this is pretty cool? It's because if I take a look at Kendo, it's a meme coin, kind of a little bit similar, in my opinion, in terms of the design, a little bit to like Shiba Inu in terms of the logo. And also, not to mention, it does say that Kendo is available on both Solana and Base. Now, why do I think this is pretty cool? It's because, of course, Zebec, I think, has close ties to Solana. ZBCN not too long ago, top 10 in terms of utility when it comes to Solana. Not to mention, Solana Ventures, one of the backers when it comes to Zebec. So I think this whole thing just, kind of feels like a Solana vibe. But let's also take about the Base network side of things, because being available on Base, I think, is pretty cool, because the Base network is Coinbase's layer 2 network. Coinbase, it's very massive. I mean, it's one of the biggest exchanges out there. But even besides that, when Coinbase has a layer 2, I'll look at that. And I am actually bullish on the Base network. And let me explain real quick what the Base network even is all about. Quite simply put, it's because a layer 2 by nature, what it basically does is that it allows Ethereum to be enjoyed, at least in this case, while at the same time not having to necessarily deal with like the gas fees or scalability issues, which, let's face it, is not that good, I think, when it comes to Ethereum. And now, granted, the Base network isn't the only layer 2 out there, right? I mean, like, for instance, there's Arbitrum, there's Miria, there's Immutable. I mean, there's a bunch. There's also Optimism. And actually, fun fact, right? Optimism built the Base network in collaboration with, you know, Coinbase. So I think that's pretty cool. And again, Optimism is very reputable. But the cool thing about the Base network, in my opinion, or should I say the unique thing, is that it actually doesn't have a native token. So then, if I actually want to believe in the Base network, I can't just go out and, let's say, for instance, if I believe in Optimism, I can get OP, right? Its native token. Or let's say Arbitrum, I can get ARB. You know, for Miria, for Immutable, there's IMX. But then again, for the Base network, there isn't that. So if I believe in the Base, ecosystem, so to speak, if I believe it moving forward, quite essentially, the way I take a look at it is that for me to kind of tap into that, I have to believe in the projects that are on the Base network. Now, do I hold any Kendo Inu? No, I do not. However, there are some projects that I am bullish on the Base network. Like, for instance, Toshi, which is a very popular meme coin, arguably, that is named after Brian Armstrong's pet cat, and Brian Armstrong is the co-founder of Coinbase. So I think that's pretty cool. Not to mention, I believe in Brett. And, that's another meme coin on the Base network. And also, there's something called Aerodrome, which is a decentralized exchange on the Base network. So, again, those are kind of like the top three projects that I believe in when it comes to Base. So I just feel like mentioning this is pretty cool nonetheless. And I like what Zebec is doing when it comes to the cards. It feels like they're taking it seriously. It doesn't seem like they're treating it like a joke. At least that's the way I feel like it. Now, granted, some people may be thinking, okay, the Zebec cards, like, its partnerships aren't necessarily the best. And I'll agree with that to a certain extent, because it's not like, you know, it's the most popular thing out there. Many projects out there have cards. But in my opinion, we have to take a look at what Zebec has been able to accomplish, especially when it comes to the cards, historically speaking. Like, for instance, we take a look at, things regarding Algorand, which I talked about in one of my previous videos. Take a look at, Bonk, right? Bonk is a very popular Solana-based meme coin. So when I take a look at something like Zebec, I think they're taking this seriously. I don't think they're treating it like a joke. And I like how, in contrast to many other projects out there that make cards just simply to say that they have cards, Zebec seems to be treating it seriously. And what I like about Zebec cards is that it has a lot of versatility in terms of, like, it supports allegedly multiple blockchains. Like, for instance, the Zebec cards, they do support blockchains such as Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Solana, which I talked about before, and also the Base network, which I talked about before as well. So I think that's pretty cool. Zebec cards is also powered by MasterCard. So again, I just think this whole thing seems very interesting to me. And I like how they're constantly updating and how they're actually, doing something behind the scenes, as opposed to other projects out there that launch a card and then they just don't really care anymore. So I kind of like that about Zebec. Now, I think also something that people kind of often ignore when it comes to Zebec is that it's focused on RWAs. Now, RWA stands for real world asset. And again, I get it. Some of these RWA projects haven't necessarily been doing the best, but that could be said for many altcoins out there, especially after a pretty big pullback like a lot of altcoins that we see have, generally speaking, even the slight recovery and also the slight pullback that we're seeing a little bit right now. But even besides that, even though RWAs may not necessarily be this like, kind of hyped market, in my opinion, in the grand scheme of things as of right now, I like how Zebec is focused on it currently because if that market really does take off, Zebec, I think, is going to be in a position in which hypothetically it's able to catch that wave. Because personally, I think it's much better for me to anticipate something as opposed to chase it. It's like, for instance, let's say I'm surfing in the ocean. Would it be more logical for me to put myself in a position to catch the wave as opposed to trying to chase a wave that's like 40 feet away? There's no way I could chase that, right? Or should I say paddle or swim or whatever? I can't do that. I'm not Aquaman, so I can't do that. But I'm just saying, I think it's much better putting myself in a good position as opposed to chasing. So I think when it comes to something like Zebec, again, being focused on RWAs, having, their cards, right? Being focused on payrolls, which as of right now doesn't really seem like a hyped market. Also on top of that, we take a look at being focused on AI-based PayFi, which is a pretty hyped thing, but again, generally speaking, they're not really focused on these markets that have really taken off yet, which I think is cool because once those markets really do take off, I think Zebec hypothetically is in a prime position maybe to go along with the ride. However, only time will tell. And, I get it, 10 cents as of right now. It may seem a little bit boring because, altcoins are beginning to kind of stall a little bit after the decent recovery. I mean, 10 cents is still around a 25.5x from here. So it's still kind of far. I mean, a $9 billion market cap at the price of 10 cents considering current circulating supply. I still haven't given up on that idea because I just think that market cap is kind of a little bit low compared to even like some of the less, I would say, fundamentally amazing projects out there. I mean, I'm not saying that Zebec is better than Ripple. Of course, I think Ripple has a much larger fan base. I think it's more popular, but XRP currently has a market cap that is well beyond $100 billion. And I think arguably many people could agree that we're not in a fully fledged type of altcoin season. So this is like less than 10% of that. I don't think ZBCN could do this next week or something like that, but let's say maybe during a fully fledged type of hypothetical altcoin season, if we do ever see one, that wouldn't really surprise me given the market cap it would have at that point. Now, if the market cap was like going to be 300-400 billion, that's a little bit too much. Even like 50 billion or something, nah, I just don't think so. 20 billion is even pushing it, in my opinion. I think like anything around like, that $8-9 billion market cap doesn't seem that crazy to me. Maybe 10 billion, who knows? But again, 10 cents doesn't seem that ridiculous to me. However, this is just my perspective. I'm still staying patient, but in the meantime, I do like what I'm seeing when it comes to Zebec. I like what they're doing when it comes to the cards. I like how the team is actually, actually doing something, right? They're actually focused on ISO 20022 compliance. They're focused on, the education market by acquiring something called Science Card UK. So overall, I do like the vibes when it comes to Zebec, but again, it's not really represented in the price charts of ZBCN. I'm totally aware of that, but you know what? ZBCN surprised me before when it had that rally, and if it were to, let's say, maybe surprise me again, if we ever see a fully fledged type of altcoin season, that wouldn't shock me because it happened before. Could it happen again? Who knows? But at least ZBCN historically has showcased that, you know what? It has gained somewhat attention. Could it gain that again? Only time will tell, but that wouldn't surprise me, and I'm still very excited when it comes to Zebec. I'm still a fan, and I'm just waiting patiently. That's pretty much it. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I would greatly appreciate it. It's Lee the Captain, and I'll catch you all in the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.